What is the fallout of Friday's Stock Talk Live talking about TSSI? Let's talk about it because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. It's not a lot, actually. I'm surprised by the small amount of negative reaction, but there is a lot of reaction out there, and we got to clarify, we got to reinforce, and most of all, we got to talk the truth. Okay, so we're gonna get the live studio audience in here. By the way, trolls are not allowed. I will just block you. I'm not gonna entertain this. You feel me? Like I never do anyways, but I'm gonna have less tolerance for it now. I'm a 30-year veteran of Wall Street. I've got 45% track record, certified going back 11 years. If I block you, you will never engage with me again, and that's your loss, not mine. Okay, so let's not have any of that. We're going to let the live studio audience come in. I'm going to verify the audio and video. And I got to get the, let's see, invitations out. Let's get the invitations out. Boom. Let's get this up on the screen. Make it all look pretty. And boom. We'll post that. Go ahead. My wife wants to get something out the printer. And here we go. Now let's verify the audio and video. And I'm going to answer all your questions on TSSI. What was great about this, you see, part of the reason why me doing this, which by the way, always free, go watch my videos. I'm not going to repeat all that stuff, right? But I've been doing this for free, donating time. Part of it is because it helps bring more research out, right? I can't do everything. I can't be the smartest person on every topic of every company. Of course not. That's why we have a community, right? And so I got a lot of people on the smart retail investors and institutional investors that communicated with me over the weekend. We gathered more information. We're going to update, change, reinforce, whatever we need to do right now, right here. It's only about TSSI though. That's all we're talking on this show today. We're going to try to make it an hour or less because there we go. We got audio, we got video. And then come back Friday with all the stocks that I give you all the AI analysis, all of that. But in the meantime, share the invite to this. I just posted the invite to StockTwits and Twitter. So while we're waiting for people to come on in, I'm going to put this on the screen. Okay. And this is just the reinforcement, the disclaimers, the disclosures. This is not a solicitation to buy, sell, or otherwise transact any stock or derivatives. I'm not a registered financial advisor. I can do whatever I want. I'm registered with the IRS as a day trader, so I can day trade if I want. I'm going to let you know I'm not playing the stock. Okay. I am net neutral. I sold off my position, as y'all know. I'm not short. Nobody I know is short. I don't know anybody personally who is long or short the stock specifically. All I care about here is the truth. That's all I've done for 30 years is deal with the truth. So those of you who are upset, sorry, I'm the one that proved. I'm the one that provided y'all the proof, right? Remember? If you don't remember, boom, the proof 1 year ago that TSSI was doing business with XAI. That was the proof that sparked the stock into a multi-bagger status, 2 to 20. Shout out to Geo Investing, by the way. My boy Maj is the one that introduced me to the stock, even though I was the one that proved what they were doing. Okay, so I got to give credit where credit's due as far as that goes. Now that we've got a good audience, I'm going to reiterate. Trolls, you will be instantly blocked from every channel, everything that I do. So have your fun. Get your one comment in. If it makes you feel good because mommy and daddy didn't give you love, it's all good. It doesn't bother me. Okay, so that's number one. That's only to your loss because I will never engage with you again. All right. And then you lose access to somebody who gives to society because it was given to me. All right. For those of you who don't know, go watch my past videos. Don't want to go over this, but I give my real name. I give my real credentials. I give my real track record. Those are three things that you will not get from 95% of anybody that you hear posting stuff on the internet. This is not a popularity contest to see who can post the most stuff and make a stock move. No, the stock market is about research and valuation. That's all I focus on. Okay, so we're going to get into that. We're going to focus on that. There's my credentials. There's my instruction manual. There's my video instruction manual. There's my track record on Seeking Alpha. What was it? 24 triples in 5 years. There's my track record since then. Live, documented, no losing picks, going back to May last year. This is not a game. I'm not here to play a game. I'm here to give you information and research, a donation of my time. So if you don't like that, if you think you just want to play some trader game, shut the F up and go away, because this is for the big boys. This is for the adults, not you game players, not you little kids playing your gambling games. All right. With that being said, now we got the audience I'm looking for. Boom. Okay. So let's get into it. Number one. Okay. I am neither bullish nor bearish on the stock per se. Okay, I got my own feeling on valuation, and I will share that feeling on valuation. But I do not consider myself a bull or a bear. In fact, I love these guys. Okay, I'm a big fan of Daryl and Dan. I wish them the best. I think they're great guys. I've had many conversations with them, right? But my job is not to put out the pom-poms for Daryl and Dan. It's not to put out the pom-poms for TSSI just because I was one of the main reasons the stock went from 2 to 20. No, my job is to tell the truth. Just like the bears didn't like it when I was telling the truth on the way from 2 to 20, there are going to be bulls that won't like some of the information that I share, like I did on Friday. It's too bad. It's just the truth. Okay? Now, secondly, the picture. The picture. Mark, you put a picture on your... Shut up. Shut up. All I was doing was showing you the Dell AI factory in Franklin, Massachusetts. That's not a bombshell. That was not the bombshell. That was just me showing the facility. Here, there's zillions of pictures of the facility on the internet. Okay? No big deal. And you guys thought, the picture, you think that's a bombshell, everybody? Yes, of course everybody knows that's not the bombshell. The bombshell is the confluence of factors, especially what happened over the last 10 days that led us to this point. Okay? The total picture. And we're going to go over that total picture again, because I'll take responsibility for the fact that maybe I took for granted that retail investors could understand what I was saying, because I dealt with Wall Street for so long. The institutional investors that contacted me, I got positive. I don't know what that was right there. My bad. That's fine. The institutional investors that contacted me and gave me feedback, 100% positive feedback. They understood exactly what I was saying, know that it's good research, professional research, because that's all I do. Retired in 2008 as a professional research analyst, providing research to guys like Jim Cramer, him paying me. Okay? For those who don't know. The picture was not the bombshell. The total picture was. Let's look at the facts. Let's jump into it. All right. One thing that I will say about this facility that is perhaps a bombshell to some. And by the way, this is interesting because this picture right here does look like the picture that I posted. It's not the same picture. I'm guaranteeing you that, because I'm the one that took that screenshot off of a video to post to show these racks in Dell's AI factory. Okay, so what's really, I forgot, I got the bear hat on. I just put that on, thought I'd be funny. All right, I'm not here to be a bear or a bull. I'm giving you information. The sheer magnitude of this facility. Most people, now a lot of you have done great research. I've got respect. And by the way, thank you. Thank you for being respectful and hitting me up and giving me your information, because that's how we get to the total picture, right? If you're doing real good research. But just understand, just like if you've done all your research, then you want maybe know most of this, if not all of this, that's cool, but you're in the minority. Because to most people, a lot of this is new, if not a surprise. That Dell's facility in Franklin, Massachusetts, where I used to live, is 3.5 times larger than TSSI's new facility. Okay? 7 times larger than TSSI's old facility. And they are integrating AI racks in this facility, which means that they are not only a partner, right, to TSSI, or TSSI partner to Dell, but Dell is also basically TSSI's largest competitor. Well, does that even make sense? How can that possibly be? Well, yeah, of course that could possibly be, right? They formed a relationship. And by the way, go look in the SEC documents. You don't have to. I'll just tell you. That relationship, that 5-year relationship that they formed, can be canceled for no reason on 6 months' notice, based on my understanding of the situation, okay? I'm just giving you the facts as I know it. I'm not trying to be bullish or bearish. I'm telling you what I know and being honest about it. I have no stake in the game. I'm net neutral on the stock, personally, okay? And nobody I know is either long or short, to my knowledge, okay? Let's be clear about that. So that it takes out bias in this. This is just truth, right? Dell recently completely upgraded this facility, including training. Who did the training? Who gave Dell the training? The COO of TSSI. So basically, the COO of TSSI was asked by Dell to go to Franklin, Massachusetts and train them on how to be efficient, like TSSI is, in integrating AI racks. Okay? To make them, obviously, it made them stronger. Maybe the COO of TSSI didn't want to do it, but did he really have any choice? So that's one thing, right? So now Dell is very fully equipped to do rack integration. I saw misinformation out there. There's like some trader. He actually has more followers than me on Twitter, right? By the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter, 7,000 followers. I'm not trying hard to increase that. I could throw money behind this. I'm not gonna, right? There's my Twitter, at Pipeline Data LLC. Somebody with more Twitter followers than me put out complete misinformation that Dell makes servers, but TSSI integrates them, and therefore TSSI is an integral part and needed. No, Dell does integration too. In fact, if you look at, was it the NVR72 racks, the new Blackwell NVIDIA racks, there used to be certification at the server level, OEM certification, like this server is good, was done at a server level. Right? So Dell could make a server in their facility, certify it as, boom, Dell certified, OEM, warranted, guaranteed, boom, 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 this is a good server. Send them off to TSSI and have TSSI integrate them for final delivery to the customer. But with the Blackwell, the NVR72s, don't hit me if I'm typoing the actual NVR72. The new Blackwell racks have to be OEM certified at the rack level. Now, I can't tell you 100% certainty that that means that the racks have to be made at Dell's facility going forward. But if you do your AI searches, right, and I have to talk to the company, I'm going to tell you right now about this. This is something that came up over the weekend. I was researching, found this, thanks to members of my community for looking into this as well, right? But now that OEM certification needs to be done at the rack level, there is a significant concern that we need to alleviate. It's a concern. I didn't say it's the death. I said it's a concern that we need to alleviate by getting an answer from either Dell or TSSI regarding what that means for TSSI's ability to integrate these racks. Okay? When I do my research into it, the most likely scenario that I can find is that Dell is going to do most of its own rack integration on those high-end racks, which, by the way, carry the highest margin, and continue to use TSSI for other work that doesn't require rack-level certification by the OEM, who is Dell, not TSSI. TSSI is an integrator. Dell is an OEM. HP is an OEM. Supermicro is an OEM. Those three can do, for sure, their own OEM certification. it's very unclear to me and unlikely, in fact, that TSSI can do that certification since they're not an OEM. They're not the OEM. Okay. By the way, if you have questions, put them into the chat. And if you like what I do for y'all, all this research, this is just a pure donation of time. No sponsorships, no advertisements. I'm a retired multimillionaire, retired back in 2008. Okay. And I just give back every week on Fridays at 2. Why? Because my mentor gave to me for free all the knowledge that I'm giving out to y'all now. Taught me that colleges were a lie, CNBC was a lie, and then he taught me the truth. And it took a while, trust me, to get through my thick head, because what I believed was ingrained based on what I was seeing. So a lot of you will look at me and say, he's just talking shit. No, I'm sorry. You're in the matrix. You just haven't had the blinders taken off in terms of what is real in this world. And once that happened for me, I went from living in a $143 basement, not a basement apartment, a basement, to being a multimillionaire in a penthouse on Miami Beach, living next to billionaires whose names you know. Okay? So you can continue to live your life of lies, or you can listen to somebody that's willing to pull you out of the matrix because he was pulled out of the matrix. So let's go. So that takes care of the Dell facility. That takes care of the OEM certification that is now required for those high-end racks, right? And that leaves TSSI. If TSSI can't do that, that leaves them in an unenviable situation that's even worse, actually, than what I presented on Friday. Because what we're seeing now in the marketplace, right? Everybody thinks, oh, TSSI is a critical part of the... Yes, they are. They're a critical part, but they're a critical part without a huge moat. You got Foxconn coming into this business. You got Dell expanding their capabilities, and they can expand at will. They have 7x the capacity of TSSI, 7x. How much do you think it would take for them to turn it into 8x or 9x or 10x, right? 7x their old capability, 3.5x the current capability, which they could easily turn into 4.5x or 5.5x. They are multiples larger than TSSI. And now you get Foxconn, a very efficient contract manufacturer, coming into this space. It's known that systems integration is needed for AI. Okay? So that's going to attract attention, especially when you have a company like TSSI in their public disclosure showing that they make 45% margins on this. Do you know what normal margins are for this kind of work? Like for old school data centers? Like half. 25%, 30%. So even if TSSI, let's say if we get margin pressure from incoming competition, and if TSSI is relegated to doing the lower end work while Dell does all the high end work on the new Blackwell racks, if their margins decline from 45% on rack integration to 30%, then that means that they have to grow their revenues 50% next year just to keep earnings where they are. And by the way, they only did what? 18 cents of earnings in the first half. That's 36 cents for the year. They got to grow. If in that scenario, I'm not telling you that that's the scenario. I'm just helping you think about this. Think this through. Get your notebook and pens out so you can put all the pros and cons together. If 36 cents is the limit of their capability, what is the stock doing here? When you have a 97% customer in Dell who could take their business away from you in literally a snap, the swipe of a pen, 6 months later, the relationship's over. That's not the kind of business that Wall Street affords large multiples. And that maybe brings us to the next problem, okay? As part of the bombshell was the total picture again, right? As part of the bombshell total picture, we had the earnings announcement. And the biggest misconception out of that earnings announcement was the raised guidance. Oh, God. Do you know a lot of people have had conversations with the company telling them this is not smart guidance to put? yeah, you want to beat and raise, you want to sandbag guidance, but this is not sandbag guidance. This is ridiculous guidance. It's not even like normal math, because the original guidance was that they were going to grow EBITDA by 50% this year over last year. Well, duh. They basically did zero in the first half of last year. TSSI's year, last year, was all basically in the second half of the year. Remember the chart? Remember this? Right? Remember when I said buy back here? That was August. How ironic. This is basically the anniversary of when I told you to buy TSSI hand over fist. The stock was running and I said, this is not chasing because this stock is completely undervalued. I'm buying at these levels. I continue to buy at these levels, and I was buying at other levels up until the risk reward rule said sell. And again, if you're new to me, go back and read my instruction manual, watch my instruction video. No advertisements, no sponsorships, no tricks. It's just me helping you. Okay. So, we had all of that, right? And, the second half was the whole year. So think about this. If they did nothing this year except match what they did in the second half of last year, right? We're doing great. Second half of last year was great. So the first half of this year, let's do at least as good. And then the second half of this year, let's do at least as good. If you do 0 in one half, and then 1 in the second half, and then you do 1 in the first and second half of the following year, you should at least double what you did the prior year, because you did 0 in the first half. You had half a year versus a full year. That's the best way to assess it. They had half a year to make all that money last year. This year they have a whole year to do it. So they should at least double their EBITDA, all else being equal, with no growth. Their guidance should have initially, months ago, been 100% growth. They said 50. It was a joke. Everybody I speak to tells me that was a joke. And then when they came and raised their guidance to 75%, that's almost more of a joke than the 50%, because you're raising your 50% to 75 when it should be 100 if you're not going to grow at all. So I'm not bullish or bearish on the guidance, because it's meaningless. The guidance is so ridiculous, it's meaningless. Are they going to beat their guidance? Of course they're going to beat their guidance. Bro, if they don't beat their guidance, the stock is going to be in the single digits, like mid-single digits, if that. Because that guidance is very, very light and weak. It adds up to maybe 32 cents of EPS for the year. 32 cents on a company that gets 97% of their business from one customer. You cannot give more than a PE of 10 on something like that. That would put the stock at $3. I'm not saying that's where it goes. I'm just helping you understand how this works. Okay. By the way, it should be said, because I've given y'all so much concern, that I do believe that Q3 and Q4 are going to be strong. They're forget about guidance. They're going to beat guidance barring some tragedy. But even with all of this, I do believe that there is enough business to go around that they have to have a great Q3 and Q4, especially Q3, because that's the big government quarter. That's the government year end. Government flushes out business, and government business is a big part, I think, of the partnership that Dell and TSSI have together, because the government doesn't like their invoices to be itemized. And so what Dell does is they take all those parts that go into the government servers, they send them off to TSSI. TSSI assembles it all and then sends it back to Dell. Now it's not a bunch of parts that they have to list. It's just one server that they say server or server rack. And that allows Dell to mask what they're giving the government, and lets the government mask what they're receiving, because the government has to disclose everything that they buy. And we don't need Russia knowing what we put in our AI server racks. So that affords TSSI an important role, not something that you can give a big long-term valuation on, by the way, but it is an important role. TSSI is important to Dell for that, and as a release valve at the very least. My impression, though, is, if you ask me, That's what they are. They're just a release valve. Dell is a very efficient organization. They don't like variability in their results. They know that Wall Street likes clean, right, results. I showed you all a chart that I made live. It wasn't pretty, but the idea is you've got demand in the marketplace for AI. That's rising, right? And Dell is clearly, Franklin Mass facility, taking on some of that for themselves. Okay? And if you say 2024, 2025, 2026, right? If this shaded area, I'm going to show you, is the part that Dell takes for themselves, the rest is what they give to TSSI. It's the overflow. It's the variability. That's not bullish, especially because the variability doesn't really necessarily have to grow over time, because Dell is the one that can grow. Dell is the one that they can expand their facilities and just leave TSSI as is. Great. Thanks TSSI for building that larger facility. That gives us a nice cushion in case there's some overflow. We don't need more overflow than that this year or next year, the year after, potentially. I think they will, right? I think they would want their overflow valve to get a little bit bigger as they get bigger. But now that their capabilities are ramping up, which by the way is another reason why they needed TSSI in earlier, like late last year and early this year, because they were busy building out their facility. It wasn't until May we knew about the facility in December, right? It was known, publicly known what they wanted to do. And then it wasn't until May until we really saw it all come together. So now here we are in the second half of the year and Dell is ready to go. TSSI was ready to go last year in August when I told y'all to buy. So they were Johnny on the spot. And while Dell was getting ready to take a lot of this on for themselves, TSSI benefited. But where does this leave them now? That's a question to ask. It's not for me to come out here and say I'm bullish, I'm bearish. It's for me to raise the important questions and give you all the answers that I have. And then the answers I don't have, let's all go out and find the answers to these questions about the certification, about their role with Dell, especially with Dell expanding their capabilities, etc. Right? And by the way, I'm going to get to the punchline and tell you what I think it's worth and what I'm doing about the stock going forward. Right? I've got, like I said, I've got a neutral position. And if you have questions, put it in the queue. I will answer all questions on this call. Okay? On this show. And then come back Friday. Every Friday, this is what I do, y'all. So, this is a seasoned 30-year veteran of Wall Street who had Jim Cramer, George Soros, and if you watch the movie Dumb Money, Stevie Cohen, their companies paid me for my research. I'm not one of these 10,000 other people blogging out their picks. I'm not one of the millions of people out there on StockTwits and Yahoo Chatbot or whatever saying buy, buy, buy. No, I'm in the 1%. I'm at the tippity top. I'm not here to converse with day traders and chartists and all that stuff. Okay? I'm here to help y'all, and I'm here to converse with professionals, whether it's institutional professionals or retail investors that have really taken the effort to realize what research really is. Okay? For the rest of y'all, you just listen, watch, and enjoy what I'm giving you, but just understand who I am. I'm not one of you normal people when it comes to Wall Street. I'm not trying to be pig-headed or pat myself on the back about it. I'm just giving you the facts. There's a lot of you who think you could just have a conversation with me because you look at a chart. The fuck out of here. You don't know what you're doing. You don't understand really what Wall Street's really about. You're playing a game. I'm looking at businesses. And I'm not riled up. It's all part of the show, guys. Come on. I got nothing to worry about. I got a beautiful wife, a beautiful baby, and a beautiful beach outside. Let's finish this up. So the earnings call, I listened to it 3 times, y'all. Read the transcript twice. I'm disappointed with what I heard. Okay, I didn't think it was death, but like when you start to put together the picture, right? You take a piece of paper, and you like, I want to paint the picture. I want to see who is TSSI. So I get a data point and a data point and a data point, and you take all the data points and you see what it looks like on the page. Like when you look in the sky and you see the Big Dipper, it's because those stars are arranged in a fashion that look like a Big Dipper. But there's no lines in the sky that connect those dots. You put the dots on the page and then you connect them with your eyes and say, this looks like X. That's what we're doing here. Okay. So there was the earnings announcement. This is where the bombshell comes together, because everything that we knew before and everything that we were knowing coming up to the earnings announcement, right? Dell facility in December, Dell's facility in May, right? Everything that's happening with regard to the certification of Blackwell racks, relatively more new information, the earnings announcement, even more new information, and then finally, the most newest information, the raise. Let's talk about the raise. Do you guys realize, like, people think, oh yeah, well, they should raise money. Okay, that's cool. I understand. Their current ratio, for those of you who do accounting, was about 17 million short of even, of one, right? Or is it 11? Let's look at it. Don't do this all off the top of my head. Let's look at the current ratio. We got current assets, 70 million. Current liabilities, 87 million. So $17 million gap to get to a current ratio of 1. So raise 17 million. That's what I would think, right? Also, well, let's look at their debt, so we can triangulate this. Long-term debt, 20 million. Okay, so raise 20 million and get rid of the debt, which by the way, they were the ones that didn't want to raise money by issuing stock to build this facility. So if they didn't want to do that then, why would they want to do it now? They were comfortable issuing debt. They were confident issuing debt. If they thought the stock was undervalued, why would you issue shares to clear out your debt when you decided to do that in the first place? Okay? But we do still, you can justify, 15 or 20 million, which I just showed you. Also from the cash flow statement, you can see they had 16 million of cash from operations, 20 million the quarter before. So they don't have a problem with cash coming in. Their net change in cash the last couple quarters, 18 million bucks. Now, of course, debt, there was $11 million issuance of debt here. 8 million issuance of debt here. So if you want to raise $20 million, again, we keep coming back to like $20 million. If you wanted to raise $20 million because you thought your valuation was high enough to say, you know what, let's clear out that debt. Let's get a little cushion on the balance sheet. That's fine. 20 million. They did 58.5 million. That's nearly 20% of their market cap. Why? What do you need $58 million for right now? You just built a brand new facility that's 2 times bigger than the one that you had. And the one that you had is not subleased. And they didn't give any indication on the call that they're still using the old facility. The assumption is they're not. So if they need more space, they could just continue to use the old facility. So why did they raise $58 million at 17 bucks? With one investment banker. So we got a problem. The size of the raise is a problem to me. Having done this for 30 years, that's a problem. If it was to build a separate facility to attract a new customer so they can expand beyond Dell, which by the way, I have no doubt that their number one desire, sorry if there's noise in the background, number one desire is to expand beyond Dell. And that's smart of them. I have no doubt they're looking to do that, and I have little doubt that they'll succeed. Okay? The problem I have is how will Dell react to that? Okay? So that's a problem. right? And then you've got 2 customers. That's still not enough. That's still a lot of customer concentration risk. Look that up. All right. So you raised $58 million. That's way too much. You raised it with 1 investment banker. That's not wise, because why not 3 investment bankers? You get better reach, you get better pricing, and then you get 3 analysts to initiate coverage on your stock, right? And then who did you choose? Lucid Capital Markets. How many of you have ever heard of Lucid before this happened? Well, there's a reason for that. Because this is a relatively new investment bank. Guys out of Craig-Hallum. I know Craig-Hallum. Okay? I know a lot of people in the industry. Been in it for 30 years. I know people who know people at Craig-Hallum, like personal friends. Okay? And the reputation of Lucid going in is not a positive one. Okay? So you chose 1 investment bank. You didn't choose a great investment bank. If this is supposed to be a great company on the way to being a $1 billion market cap, why isn't Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, never mind them, even a William Blair? Why has it got to be a Lucid? This is down at the lower levels of investment banking, near desperation levels. Okay? So let's keep it a buck with that. And by the way, everything I've told you, go and research yourself. You can ask AI, do Google searches, ask your friends, family, anybody in the industry, right? And come back to me with anything that I've said wrong, right? Oh, look at this. It's so funny. This little idiot right here. I'm not going to tell you what he said, right? But he trolled. He said something that he shouldn't say, because mommy and daddy didn't give him love, and the message gets held for review. So nobody gets to see your message, Mr. Dummy, before I delete you from ever being able to write a message again. So don't even try. Okay? And if I see you on social media, I'm going to block you and you'll never see any of my research again. Why are you even watching me? Like you're wasting your time. And this is how I treat trolls, by the way. Okay? So he doesn't get any recognition. Nobody got to see who he is. Nobody got to see what he said. Doesn't bother me one bit. I just block him and move on. And the next time I see that, instead of explaining this to you, I will just do what I just did. That's all. So anyways, bottom line is, it doesn't paint a good picture. That's the problem. It paints a concerning picture to me. And I was bullish for all of this time. I stepped away for a little bit, right? Let's look at the timeline. Uber bullish here when I provided you with the proof. The first person to provide proof that they were in XAI. I called around the company. I spoke to people in the organization that probably weren't supposed to speak to me. Did not get insider information, but found out how fast they were expanding, right? Their employee base and all that. By the way, again, the picture, come on, guys, chill out. The LinkedIn that I showed, chill out, guys. I know LinkedIn isn't 100% accurate or even close to it. They're just data points. You guys are like, Mark took this picture and LinkedIn and he thinks things. Shut up. That's not research. Those are little tiny, like if you take the dimmest star in the Big Dipper, that's what those things are. The dimmest star in the big picture of the Big Dipper. All right? I mean, you guys really have to understand how to evaluate information. All right? Otherwise, I just can't show you minor data points because you're going to think that I'm making them out to be big. Come on, learn something here. So anyways, uber bullish here, right? It gets up to the high end of the risk reward range. Too expensive. I'm still bullish on the company. I still love Dan and Daryl back in January of last year. I still think they're going to put up great quarters, but the stock is risky from a valuation perspective. There is a limit, right? If you're in a neighborhood of houses and all the houses go for $300,000, and it's a great neighborhood, are you going to pay $400,000 for that house? Maybe. $600,000? You'd be a little crazy. $1 million? $3 million? $5 million? Do you see what I'm saying? There's a limit to valuation. Everybody thinks that the stocks can just go to the moon. And yeah, they can. Like you saw what happened to GameStop. GameStop never belonged where it was because people were playing a game with GameStop. That's game. Okay, so people could game TSSI to 100. That's not what I'm here to do. I don't game anything. I'm here to give you real math so that you know which companies are the safest to play games with. You could have played games with TSSI from 2 all the way to 20 and I would have been cool with it. But at that point, it was a little too expensive for the situation. And guess what? The stock dropped. Not because of me, but because other people in the world, institutions, people with big money, said, this is too expensive. Let me move on and put my money somewhere else. Lower hanging fruit. You saw how many picks have I given you since TSSI last year? Multi-baggers. One up nearly 500%. Okay? What's the average of all the picks since TSSI? Average 104%. And that includes a 59% on me, my second entry on TSSI. So that weighs down the average. So we've averaged, so TSSI has given us 59% since then, and we've been able to average over 121% on other names. There's better places for your money oftentimes. The stock came down, got closer to the bottom of the risk reward range. We became much more constructive. I took a little hiatus in here because I was going on vacation to Europe and I didn't have all the information. So let me step to the side. I'm not bearish. I'm just stepping to the side because I'm concerned about a few things and I can't follow up on them. Then we figured it out, got back in, took the rest of the ride back to the red area, got out. The stock kept going to 30. I didn't think that was justified. And then you had the earnings report. That wasn't me. I didn't conduct the earnings report. This drop right here was all TSSI. All of this. Okay? 40% drop in TSSI. The last little bit that you see here, if you want to say that's me, cool. But by the way, you saw how the stock moved. Drop, chill, drop, chill, drop. So we don't know that it's me that caused all of this. Yes, I'm sure that my analysis contributed because now people are thinking twice about whether they should have their money in the stock, right? So let's finish the conversation and go to Q&A and call it a day. All right. Real quick, by the way, bottom line, my belief, my hypothesis, what I'm rolling with, the picture looks to me like TSSI is Dell's release valve. That is not something that you can put a high multiple on. It's valuable. It has worth. Everything does. It has great facilities and all. But I'm not interested in the stock at these levels. Okay. What do I think the stock is worth? I don't think they're going to put up 32 cents of EPS this year, as their guidance might suggest. I think they're going to put up more. Okay. If I'm the guy that has to do the over under, I would say the over under on their earnings for the next year is, let's say, $1. Okay. Would I pay $15 for $1 of earnings? No. Some of you say the PE should be 20, 30, AI. I get it. There's fast growth in the market and they can continue to grow, right? But they're also beholden to one giant customer who happens to be 3 times larger than they are and a competitor as a result. You have to give that a lower multiple. Every institution I've spoken to agrees with that analysis. Some people suggested that the PE should be as low as 8. 8 times 1 is $8. Okay? That's as low as that's negative. That's pretty negative. If you said I would give it a 20p, I would call it aggressive. I'm not going to call you crazy. So if you want to buy the stock here because I think they could earn $1 over the next year, I'm not going to be mad at that. I'm just here to tell you the truth, okay? So that's what that comes down to. I don't know if there's anything else that I wanted or needed to say. I hope those guys at TSSI aren't going to be mad at me. I'm just here to tell the truth of what I see. If they have something about this to counter, they should come out and counter it. But they didn't take the opportunity on the earnings call to address some of these things that they were asked. So I stopped. I gave up trying. I'm just going to be neutral. I don't want to be influenced by anything except real research. All right, let's go through the questions real quick and call it a day. Let's see. So funny. Let's get rid of these trolls. It's so funny. We got some message retractions. That's smart. Besides Colossus 2, do you see other opportunities for Dell to share with TSSI? Absolutely. No, absolutely. They're going to share a lot of opportunities with them, but Colossus 2 might not be TSSI anymore because of that rack level certification that's necessary. Okay. TSSI, I believe TSSI will continue to be a valued partner to Dell for a long time to come. The question is, how do you value that business given that, I mean, if I want to be rude about it, it's like TSSI is Dell's bitch. What valuation do you give that? You know? That's what they are right now. They just need to expand out of that. All right. And yes, Daryl is not an idiot. Neither is Dan. I have great respect for the company. Okay. They never would have signed the agreement. No, they had to sign the agreement. They wanted to sign the agreement. They want that surety. Okay. But that doesn't mean that they don't have over reliance on a single customer. Go look that up. You need to understand what customer concentration risk is. Do I see TSSI as an acquisition card? Great question. No. Why would you buy a company that you can build for 50 million bucks? You build a facility. TSSI just built a facility for 30 million bucks and you fill it with employees. They hired like 150 employees like that. You just put out a rec onto the internet and you get a bunch of those guys. You just need a couple of good leaders to run that ship. You go out and hire TSSI COO, give him $10 million. He's not going to leave and then be the head of your. No, I don't see the value in acquiring this company. How do you track so many companies that have all these things? We'll talk about, ask me that on Friday, but it's not easy and I have a lot of people helping me. I don't cover tons of companies. I analyze one at a time, 100 hours into each company, and then it takes very little effort to maintain it. Let's keep going. And by the way, I'm going to skip over the trolls. I will delete them later because I got important things to do. I'm not answering questions outside of TSSI. Question marks. I'm looking at question. Has there been reports that Dell has not been able to take on more business, so we don't know their facility can even handle all the possible business for TSSI, more overflow? Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I do believe that there's a lot of business for TSSI right now because there's a backlog of business. But guess what? Nobody, absolutely nobody, all the bulls, all the mad people, I asked them the question, how much business can TSSI's Franklin facility handle? That's how many could answer the question. So how can you be a bull without being able to answer that question? Don't put it all on me. Like, you don't have the answers. Do you have a checklist for your process? Ask me Friday. What about the $14 billion backlog at Dell? Right. What does that mean? What does the $14 billion backlog at Dell mean for TSSI? You have to do math. You can't just say, they got a $14 billion backlog. That's bullish for the stock. No, it's bullish for the business. And you don't even know that. I know that because I've done the math. And I do believe that TSSI is going to get a lot of business over the next 6 months because of that backlog. But what happens as that backlog shrinks? That means that Dell takes on more of the business for themselves. And that's a threat. I'm not saying that TSSI is dead, but it's a threat that you guys aren't considering. You're too busy defending the stock, and I'm not having a debate with you. Why are you defending something that's not in debate? Okay? All right. I got to get out of here. We have more important things to do. I'm going to come back on Friday. Okay, I think I have answered most of the questions in queue. I'm looking at this here. I don't see anything that's relevant to the situation. Is this going to the moon or not? For those who know me, I never guess where a stock is going. Only God knows where a stock is going. I give you information. I arm you with information and math to make those decisions. Is there any chance I'd interview TSSI on live stream? I would be happy to, but there's no plans for me to do so. And I don't see the value in it personally. I'm here to share research. Interviewing an executive team is something I do in private. So I get the information first before I can analyze it, think about it, and then share it with y'all. For those who bought when you said 2 weeks ago that's okay to start dipping in at 22, were you willing to hold for months? Would you cut your losses or hold on given the new info? Ben, I cut my losses, okay? And I'm sorry, right? Most of the time I'm going to make you money. And I did dip my toe in the water of TSSI. I was bullish on the stock. So I bought the stock. And then the earnings call happened and the information came in and the raise happened. And it was it's bad, guys. To me, it's just not positive. So I'm looking forward to more information coming in. If you're a smart person doing smart research, reach out to me with that information, because Friday we will update you further. And until then, I hope you enjoyed this. We're at the top of the hour. It's noon. It's Money Mark. It's Stock Talk Live, Fridays at 2 on this YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when I go live as a surprise, like I did today, because sometimes I will. God bless y'all. Catch you soon. Take care.